All right, so I was just working out, and tonight's workout was grueling. I mean, it was, when I say grueling, I mean, everything was just harder to do tonight. So I was doing shoulders, and every set I was doing, no matter what the exercise was just difficult. Um, um, I was doing lateral raises, and I normally do, I said 20 pounds sets of 50. The last two times I did it, because I was at 10 pounds and I was doing 50s, and then I stepped it up. So today I was trying to do it and it was just grueling. So I did the first 50 and I was like, no, my body just doesn't seem to be dealing with the workout good today. And what was strange was yesterday I didn't get as much sleep. So I had an event, and I had it was like pre-planned, so and I was involved, so I couldn't get out of it. So even though I felt like just staying home and sleeping, I had to go. So I went, came back. It was a rainy day, but rain has never stopped me from working out. So I I thought to myself, okay, what am I going to do? Because tonight is shoulders, which was last night, and rain was still falling. But what I normally do is I would have done my normal routine, and routine for the night, that is, and that involved walking my dog, and then when I came back I would have walked enough to speed up digestion from my dinner. Then I'd go into my sets, and I couldn't do any of that. It was just rain. It was a little bit later than usual, to be honest. Um, Outside, I work out outside, but it being wet has never perturbed me. But my nose was running and I was hungry. I was really hungry. I think perhaps because I've been drinking a lot of ginger tea, so my digestion has improved. I'm getting hungrier. I'm getting hungrier even when the activity for the day is sort of sedentary. So I'll be sitting doing work on my laptop, and the food just digests real quick, you know. Even though it's not like I'm doing some field work and it's sped up. So I was just too tired. My nose was running, my eyes were watery. I was sneezing uncontrollably. I came home, had some dinner. I strange enough, I felt like snacking. So I had my dinner. I left a little bit and I had a little snack. And I rehydrated, a lot of rehydration, but I did forget to put some salt in my water, and I left my bottle in the vehicle that we all traveled in, and so I have not had that huge bottle with me, so I've been drinking out of cups. So I think that has had an issue with my hydration. I was severely dehydrated. When I went to bed, I woke up about two times to drink water. So I was severely dehydrated, and I I was a little bit too much into work, so I didn't hydrate during that time. But I don't think I don't that's what's affected my workout. But one thing that stood out to me was I thought to myself, I'm not going to let how my body feels stop me from working out. Mind you, I don't take pre-workout. Pre-workout for me is dinner. Yeah, that's what pre-workout is. I eat my dinner. In fact, I guess you could say my pre-workout is having a good night's rest. No matter what time of um, what time I go to bed, I try and get a good night's sleep. So a good night's sleep is my pre-workout. My pre-workout is eating healthy. Not that I don't like pre-workout, but at this point it's just not in the budget. I'm in my, I guess you could say I'm in monk mode, but not in the classic monk mode. I have not cut off the world, but I am focusing on the things that are important, and I have some business ventures trying to finalize, and buying pre-workout is just not the thing. I could make my own pre-workout cocktail with coffee being the that ingredient, that super ingredient, but I have this really bad habit of working out in the nights. It's just what works for me. I've tried in the mornings, it doesn't work out. So in the nights, if I the earliest I could work out is probably about 7 or 8. But if I did take a pre-workout cocktail with coffee, it would really mess my sleep cycle up, because I don't think by 12 it will be out of my system. But I thought I'm just going to push through. I have no pre-workout in my system. I just have water, no special electrolytes in what I'm drinking. I ate dinner a few hours ago. I was sitting and working after I ate dinner, so I thought some of it was going to be in my system. But even though sometimes I'm like working out and burping, I'm like, I feel nothing. It's like I'm empty, you know? So I'm going to have something now. But I just thought, no matter what, I'm going to push through this. And I may not do as well as I can, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I thought, so many times in life, we have to just make do with what we have. Because I will say, I did a, what's that one called, shoulder press. I'm forgetting the names. I didn't want to call names and make a mistake, but I'm probably calling all the wrong names. I did a shoulder press, so sets of 15 over my head, Arnold press, lateral raises, and then I did some flies, which is basically lateral raises, but the way all my arms are set is a little bit different. And when I was doing the lateral raises, I had to be really careful, because I have this thing where I can hear the joints in the joints here crick, like a clicking sound, and I'm like, this is a recipe for injury. And this has been happening ever since I started it. So I've been very careful about when I raise my hands on, well, I do it for both sides for consistency, is I turn my body in that direction at a certain angle. So when I lift my arms up, because I don't want to do crappy workouts. So I want to do quality reps. So to raise my arm high enough, I turn my body so I don't hear the clicking sound, and I do feel a bit of pain when I do it. So I'm always big on not injuring myself. So I turn my body at each time at a certain angle. So I do get the same pump, but maybe, I don't know, maybe there are some muscles that don't get engaged. I don't know. I very much doubt it, but I turn at a certain angle, and that was grueling tonight. So I was like, after I did the first 50, I'm like, listen, I don't want to injure myself. I'm not feeling as, I don't know. I was even telling myself it's all mental, but I thought, instead of injuring myself, let me cut these reps down to 25. So I counted the first 50 as two sets, and then I continued. And I got through. And I just thought, sometimes in life you sometimes have to cut back on things, but you still have to push through. So we may think, okay, I'm going to put in 15 hours of work today, and sometimes your body isn't allowing you, or your obligations isn't allowing you, and you probably have to just put in 10 hours of work, you know because you're perhaps trying to get the edge over your competition, or you're trying to put in more work than normal to make up for some reason. But we have to, many times for our own sake and our own health and well-being, cut back, even though we know we shouldn't stop. Because to be honest, even when I started doing those reps at 50, the strangest thing happened. I used to do 25, and one night my mind was really distracted on something. So I kept thinking about it while I was doing it. And I was at 30 something, and I was wondering, why are these reps so painful? And when I got to about in the 40s, I thought, oh, I'm really supposed to do 25 of these. I'm like, okay, so the distraction allowed me to push through. So I started distracting myself, um, trying to trick my body into doing more than it could. Because to be honest, when I reach 25, most times I'm at my limit. But because I'm not at the highest peak of my health, because I guess the highest peak of health for a man's health is like anywhere between 18 and say 25. And I've passed that a long time ago. So I'm like, okay, I should have been doing all these workouts in my early 20s. That was my mistake, but it's not too late. That's just life, you know? That's just life. It's something, it's time I can't get back, but I'm doing these things now. So a younger person will do a set of 15 reps, and based on their recovery, the youthfulness they have, their recovery time is faster, their testosterone level is higher, so they can get, better muscle growth. Um, Probably their body processes protein much faster. I don't know. But what I have to do is just be consistent, which I have been doing. You know, my one screw up was last night when I was sick, because to be honest, I don't take rest days anymore. Every 7 days a week I work out, but I think my edge is just being consistent, because I don't have, amazing genetics. Maybe I even do, but at my age, I wouldn't know. Perhaps I have great genetics, but the fact that I just wasn't working out back in those days, I'll never know. But I'm doing it because it gives me mental toughness. It's not just for the aesthetics alone. It gives me a mental toughness, because I'll tell you the truth. Sometimes when you do a rep, you do a set and you're like, oh, this is set one, and based on the amount of routines I'm doing, I'm like, okay, there's like, okay, 5 exercises, 6 exercises. Okay, so we're just keeping it at 5 sets. And then if I'm doing like 2 or 3, I'm like, okay, we're doing this at 7, you know. Um, and I may do them, and I'm thinking, set one, am I really going to go to 7 sets? Yes, it's just 2 or 3 exercises, but am I really going to go to 7 sets? Okay, let me just go to 5, and I'll set 5 as like a trick in my brain, saying that's what I'm going to do. What subconsciously I know I'm really going 7, and I'll go to 7, and then based on how I'm feeling, when I get to 7, I'll push to 10. Now, I knew from the start that really 10 is where I'm going, possibly 12. But every time I'm doing it and it seems so painful, I tell myself, I'm just doing 5. And when I get to 5, once I know I'm not going to fall over, I go to 7. And then based on time, or how well I'm feeling or how sore I am, I'll, as I said, push to 10. But it's just something I've taught myself, and I've basically been using this method for many things in life. But the pain, the physical pain that's felt, sometimes it gives you that mental toughness. So when you're doing other things, business or whatever else you're doing, it it kind of gives you that that discipline, I guess, because it does take discipline. I will tell you, it's not motivation that has gotten me to this point, because if it was for motivation, many nights I would be just watching TV and just relaxing. Well, not TV, listening some podcast or something and relaxing, or just sitting down and doing work. Because even tonight, I started working today very late, and when I started, I was like, okay, focus time, and I'm there focusing and listening to I had a bunch of podcasts queued up, and I'm listening to them. And then when I looked, I was like, oh, it's after 9. I need to go walk my dog and then work out, And I did so. So I mean, there are so many benefits that we get from working out. It's not just the health reason, you know. It pushes you to go beyond your limits. Pushes you to go beyond your limits. I will say, I don't have the most knowledge, but I will ensure that whatever I'm doing is quality reps, and I try my best to do it safely. I've been working out for, I guess, in total 3 years, but uh, the first year was a little bit of a screw up. First year and a half, because I was doing gym with my mates, and they stopped, and then I stopped. And to be honest, how they trained was very demotivating, because they are younger and stronger than I am, right? I'm like in my early 40s. Well, at the time, I was like 39, I think, or something like that. Yeah. And the youngest was like 23, the other one was 25, and the other was like 35, 36, somewhere in that region, right? They're younger than me. They were doing sports in school, so they had training from before. They weren't working out in the gym, but the one who did track, he did track, so he did certain calisthenics workouts. The one who played football, he did certain calisthenics workouts as well. The other dude, who was the closest in age to me, he actually worked out. In fact, the weights I'm using now are his friends, but he borrowed it, took it from his friend because he wasn't using it. And I borrowed it when everybody stopped. Everybody stopped, and they worked out in a way that they use very heavy weights. And afterwards, when I started working out by myself, I realized that they were doing it all wrong, because we are training for hypertrophy, which is muscle growth, but they were using such heavy weights. It was basically strength training we were doing. So I was lifting the same weight. They were saying, no, you have to lift the same weights we were lifting, or we are lifting. And many times it was like, if I'm doing bench press, and if they're lifting like 110, and I'd be like, no, take off something, let me lift 90. And they were like, no, lift the 110. And be like, no, because I can only probably do about 2 or 3 reps. And they were like, or maybe sometimes, depending on the day, maybe 1.5 or two, and they were like, no, that's good. I'm like, no, but I want quality reps, and I want to do more. And at the time, I never knew why that was important. But they were just like, no, the heavier the better. And I'm like, no, man, this can't be right. So uh, they would, I think, let me see, at 110, like the strongest dude would do like, say, 13. And I would probably be able to do 3. But I was like struggling to lift them, and I was doing it. But the 3, even though it was strenuous on my body, I never felt, I mean, I felt the muscle tension, but I never felt like it was causing muscle growth. And I will tell you, all the muscle growth I did back then is not as much as what I've accomplished in the time. the same amount of time doing it on my own because they they forced me to lift the same weights they were lifting. And as I said, they were more advanced because of, you know, stuff they did in high school and university. But it was essentially strength training. So I was getting stronger, yes, but over time I was not growing muscle, you know. And when I started doing my own training, I was like, okay, I'm going to start small. And I went all the way down because the thing is, and this is what I saw with these guys as well. They never did quality reps because the weights were heavy. So when we did, let's say for instance we did biceps, many times they were like swinging the weights up, and it was because they were really heavy, and they would have muscle growth, but because of their age and the perks of being that young or being in that age range, they could get muscle growth even though they were even though they weren't doing quality reps. Because you'd have a guy, he's bringing his arm down and he's not bringing it all the way down, he's bringing it about halfway down and then back up, and he's yanking it up, he's just swinging it up. And how I do it now is I go down to much lower weights than what they were using and forcing me to do. Because I'd be like, take off some plates or take off 2 plates. They're like, no, 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 you should do the same as we are. I'm like, okay, cool. But no, I go lighter weights and I bring my arm all the way down and I pull it back up. I don't swing it. You know, I'm not using momentum. So I pull it back up. And then when I'm going down, I don't let my hand run. I don't let my hand down like gravity. Pull it down. I pull it down so I feel the burn and I pull it back up. And that's how I work out. Uh, I keep talking about age, but if I were their age doing the workouts I'm doing now, man, I'd be huge. I know what my health is like. I know what my protein intake is like right now. My protein intake is nowhere near what it should be. In fact, let's see, for about the last 4 months, five, 5 months, I've not had any protein powder. I've I've been basically substituting it with some sort of milk based, well, that's what's available. Some milk based soy product that's on the market, which has a little protein in it, but nowhere near what a protein powder has. And what I do is just have eggs for breakfast every morning. I'll blend oats and that thing. When I do have it, I need to go buy some more. But my protein intake is way below what it should be. And I am still growing muscle, but it's nowhere near what it should be. Because I just don't have that. And then, as I said, my testosterone level is not like, because it was like up there, you know, back in my day. Well, when I was those ages, when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I will tell you, it was high when I was even in my 30s. Um, and if I was doing those workouts back then, I would have had huge muscle growth. I mean, people can see the growth I have, but it would be a lot faster. Mind you, uh, persons don't put on like 20 pounds of muscle per year. I have put on within a year about 5 pounds of muscle, which is pretty good, you know. Even if I mean, there are people who are even in that 20, 20s age range, which don't put on 20 pounds of muscle and they're working out good workouts and good protein intake. But I think it's because I've been more consistent than most people. But I just have to use consistency. uh Now that I think about it, perhaps like now that I don't even have those milk-based products, I think I'm probably going to have to, not probably, I'm going to have to eat more eggs in the mornings to get my protein intake higher to compensate for that shortfall. until I get those, and then I can bring it back down, because I'm just having like 4 eggs, which is not a lot. So I'm going to probably start having 6 each morning, and then when I do get that milk-based product, I'll bring it back down to 4, and then as soon as certain business ventures I'm working on, kind of sort itself out, then I'll go back and buy my protein powder, and you know, I'll see some more muscle growth. Not hopefully, I will see a greater a greater rate of muscle growth. So even though right now I know, things aren't great, I don't have the level of protein that I should, I'm working out just the same. It doesn't matter to me. Some people might say it's a waste, because muscles were made in the kitchen and you're not consuming enough protein. I'm still going to go out there and tear up those muscles. If it's even just for the mental toughness that I'm achieving. Mind you, the research has shown that lifting heavy weights causes, I think it's not de-aging, but slower aging. You know, there are so many benefits. I mean, there's so many I can't even think of them right now, but it does cause a huge amount of benefits. So, I just keep doing it. You know, well, even if, well, here's the thing. Even if you're not consuming enough protein to grow muscles, just working out goes contributes towards maintenance. So you may be maintaining the muscles you have already and not necessarily growing it. So anyway, you look on it, there's still benefit. So and the thing about it is, every day we wake up, we need encouragement, we need motivation. And I guess in my case, the motivation for me is, you know every day is a new challenge. Every victory you overcome, there's another challenge to get in your way. And working out is just that daily way of reminding me that, okay, here's another challenge. Let's overcome it. Okay, 2 sets gone, 3 more to go. I think what tomorrow is, what, biceps. It's going to burn. That one is painful, because that one, there's a lot of lactic acid buildup, and legs as well. you know but regardless of how painful it is, I just keep pushing through. Sometimes, even of lately, I realize that, in order not to risk injury, sometimes I'm lifting and I'll just stop and just hold it. Depending on where I am or what workout I'm doing, I may just hold the weights, or I may bend down and rest it on my knee or something, just to let some of that lactic acid subside. And it's not for a very long time. I'll take a few breaths. I'll be like, deep breaths, sometimes 3. Try not to go more than 5, and then let it bring that lactic acid level down, and then I'll stand up and just keep going again. So I could say, well, I saw some workouts, and they said, sets of 15, you know 8 to 5 reps of, 8 to 5 sets of 15s, which might be a lot which would be a lot easier. But I know that I have to push beyond my limits. I have to go a little bit harder than everybody else, because one, I'm sort of making up for last time. I have to do harder reps, because I don't have genetics or a testosterone level on my side. So I have to just work with what I have, which is why even on some days I'm just there working. I'm like, damn, sedentary lifestyle is horrible. And I'll just stop and just go outside and just try and soak up some sun, because I'm like, all right, I have to get this vitamin D in me. Today it was like, yesterday was like rainy, really rainy, and today was like a spillover. We had like no sunshine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go take some vitamin D tablets and some multivitamins on top of that. Even though I'm consuming fruits and vegetables, I'm going to take those to compensate for the vitamin D I didn't get today because there was no sunshine to get. Right? That's how I'm rolling. I have to always be thinking about these things. I think it was Saturday. As today is Monday. Yesterday was rainy day, Sunday. And Saturday I was like, okay, today I'll soak up some sun. So I was like, okay, let me leave some of those chores for later. Got a good night's sleep, even ended up waking up too late, but got up, did some stuff, and then I got my bicycle. Didn't even get to pump the tires to make them as tough as they should, but I just hopped on that thing and I was out there riding and getting some sunshine. I even initially wore a cap and I was like, no, the sun is not really hot. Took my cap off and was just soaking up the sun, right? Soaking it up, right? Getting all that vitamin D in my body. For those of you who don't know, that's essential for producing testosterone. And I keep talking about testosterone. If you have been living under a rock, I'll tell you it is the key or one of the key components to building muscle, right? Protein and testosterone. So crawl out from the rock. You now know. I told you. Okay. So yeah, soaked up some vitamin D. Hopefully tomorrow we get some more sunshine. I'll soak up some more sunshine. Right? So these things I'm keeping at the forefront of my mind. I'd hope you guys think that way as well. And if you don't, try to, because your health is your greatest wealth. you know, if you don't take care of your health, if you don't consciously um, look out for your health and try to get the nutrients that you require into your body, nobody will. It's like yesterday um I was watching this thing. It was a short, like, few minutes of it. It was a Carnival Eats, I think it's called. And I was like, wow, this food looks delicious. I'm like, living in America must be so great. Like all this nice food, like these things that people eat at carnivals look so delicious. And I was just there like, oh, I could eat that now. And then I thought to myself, they're not telling us, but all of that stuff is highly processed. And we know this. We know that processed foods are not good for us. But when they're doing all these delicious foods at carnivals or wherever, they're not saying, okay, these things are highly processed. No, they're not. Even some of the meats I was looking at, I was like, oh,